And I am so excited to introduce you to our next guest. Elizabeth Bennett is a school principal. She has been working in the school system for 35 years, and she's lasted. That woman needs a medal. And you know, every time I talk to Elizabeth, she just knows what's going on when it comes to kids. She grounds me. She has lots of great things to say right now about homeschooling. How many of you are like, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to homeschool my kid, but she has got some real practical things. Are you here, Elizabeth?
I am.
Yay, there's Elizabeth. There
Here
she
I am.
is. Awesome. Well, Elizabeth, I just want to say we're so thankful that you're here. Thank you for all the work that you and the Catholic School Board have been doing, and any CBE or any school teachers, educators watching right now. We just want to say thank you. And now we understand how amazing you really are. So go for it, Elizabeth.
It was interesting just the other day, Connie, when thankfully one of our um, one of our political leaders actually said thank you to teachers. It was like, holy, somebody's finally listening and seeing what we do. So I know the other day you and I chatted about what it looks like. And here's what I have for parents as well as children is the idea that this is not a time where we should be doing online education or homeschooling. That really wasn't the focus of how we're trying to help support people. Really, what we're trying to do is to keep some foundational skill going to help students along and so on. But I see what's happening is, you know, we have so many things that are going on at the same time. So many people have lost their jobs. So now they're at home full time, or they're at home because they have to be working from home. And so they don't have the luxury of leaving and having their children go to school. Everyone is now in the house together. And so what we really need to be doing, or certainly my focus in helping my teachers understand what we need to be helping support with, is that relationship. And everyone ahead of me has said that same thing. We're trying our best to help support parents at the same time. This is not an expectation where they need to be having school all day long. We waited a period of time. Our school district was one in Calgary that certainly knew that we had to change something almost instantly. The Saturday of the weekend of March 15th, you know, our medical advisor said, no, it might be a little bit premature to close the schools. So, you know, all of us as principals and administrators and so on were, you know, texting and emailing our teachers saying, okay, here's our plan moving forward for next week. This is what we're going to do. There's an anticipation that the schools will close. So let's get ourselves on board and do what we need to do. Then the next day, it was announced that the classes would be canceled, not schools closed, but classes would be canceled. So again, we gathered with our teachers on Monday and said, okay, here's what we need to do. The most important thing that we need to do right now is not about the curriculum. It's about relationship. So figure out however it is that you need to use technology to get connected with your children in your classes. The lower elementary teachers whose eyes they were just agog with, oh my God, how do we make this happen? Because this is not a pattern of behavior that we're used to, particularly with younger elementary kids. We're in those classes with those kids, we're doing centers, we're having some fun, we're doing lots of things that are really relational and really heartfelt in the classroom. So now what happens? So these teachers, it's been quite an amazing journey in the short time to see that vertical learning curve for them with technology. But they have adapted to it. They've taken it on. They're using Microsoft Classroom and Flip Video and all kinds of things that, you know, several weeks ago I wasn't even familiar with, or neither were they. And what they've been doing is they've been giving kids an opportunity to visit with each other and to visit with the teachers and showing them their favorite toy or their favorite their animals at home, or talking about what's been going on and so on. Now the next piece of that, when I shifted over to having conversation with parents, I'm encouraging parents to really set a schedule, and not a schedule necessarily for classroom all day in your house, but a regular kind of schedule that helps to maintain some sense of normalcy. And I get this isn't a normal situation. We've never had anything happen in our particular lifetime that's been as critical as this. What that schedule will do will help to reduce a little tiny bit of the anxiety, because as Jody said before, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Kids aren't at their games or their practices. Kids aren't graduating this year. They're not with their friends. They're not doing what they're normally used to doing. So establishing this kind of schedule for them and their families hopefully will have some sense of not even normalcy, but just a little tiny reduction in their stress level and management. So when we're looking at balancing that schedule and management and putting in a little tiny bit of curriculum, that's all that we're asking for at this point in time. It took a little while for us to get the direction from the ministry as well. So we were basically on our own for about a week or so, taking a look at, okay, what's important, what do we need to do, and how are we able to balance this as teachers, and now being in this new environment of online learning. So one of the conversations that I had with the teachers was to remind them, and as well, I had this conversation with some of my parents to say to them, this is not online education. This is not a university course, or it's not, if you're taking advancement in high school, or you're doing an online program. This is not it. Teachers are trying to provide a little bit of foundational skill so that kids stay connected with their academics. But that looks very different in a home than it does in a classroom. We have the skills and the strategies and so on, and the resources all sitting in our classrooms, waiting to provide that opportunity for kids to learn and thrive there. In this new environment, when you're at home, there are so many things that can be done differently, but still have the academic component. So you might be talking about, okay, so let's take a look at social studies, and the whole idea that this is a current event. So what could we do? What's possible? What could we learn from this? So those are part of the conversations that families can get involved with, not necessarily yelling at the television because, they think that, the government isn't doing enough fast enough or so on, but rather, if you had that opportunity to be able to make a change or make a difference, what could that be? So that's part of conversation. The whole idea of being able to uh, cook or bake something. There's a whole bunch of math skills that are built right in there. Language arts skills, where they're actually reading the steps and the sequence of a recipe, where they're taking the measurements and they're doing what they need to do. And then they get a bonus product out of that. So they have a supper for their family, or they have chocolate chip banana muffins, or they've got, whatever their interest is. So those are the kinds of things. Going for a walk outside and looking at shapes and sizes and colors, and if you look in some communities where, how many doors are black, how many doors. So there's so many aspects of what we have with this connectedness with our own family that can provide us that opportunity to really learn and grow. Now, a question that when you and I were having conversation the other day, and one of the questions was, okay, what does this look like moving forward when we get to this next grade? Because that's a concern for parents, and it is as well for children. They don't know what's going to happen. So these foundational skills that we're trying to, and like Jody said before, providing a space for them to go through the concerns that they have, go through some of the, and acknowledge them, and allow kids to have that voice in saying, I don't get this, I don't understand it, it's frustrating, and so on. When we provide that space, then when we're moving forward into what we need to do, to help them understand what's going to happen next, because this is an unknown for all of us. And the timing of when we start school again could be September, October, who knows? But when we get there, the teachers have the opportunity and the resources to be able to assess the students. So they might take something from, let's say, your son or daughter is in grade 5, just as an example. So the teacher in grade 5 might take a look at some resources and some, maybe a quiz or a writing prompt that they would have used in grade 4. And they'll bring that forward. And that way, the students in that classroom will be able to take that test or quiz or whatever. And then it gives the teachers an opportunity to see where they are, what level of achievement they're capable of doing at that point in time. And then the teachers create a program specific to the students in that class. We all know that, it's a little bit like when we go on vacation in the summer. We're away for 2 months in the summer, or 8 weeks, or how many, whatever you want to call it. And then, so they're leaving one grade, they have those 2 months off, and now they're coming into another grade. And I get this might be a longer time. However, we still do the same kind of preparation in order for the teachers to be able to plan a program for that next year. And what are the skills and the strategies and whatever the teaching is that we need to do in order to fill that gap for the next year. But the teacher's real concern for this is they want to meet the students where they are, where the students are, rather than where the teacher is. The teacher has the information. They're going to be able to provide it in whatever kind of capacity they can. But the gift is closing that gap and having that relationship. And that relationship starts now in these kinds of videos, in being able to connect every day with the students. They've written little bits of curriculum and they've shared it with families, and they've tried to explain as best as they can to say, this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to do 15 minutes of math today. I'd like you to do maybe 15 minutes or write a journal entry on Tuesday. And maybe on Wednesday, you might do a little science experiment. And science experiment could be baking. A science experiment could be, letting go a balloon in the sky and seeing which direction it goes in. It could be things that are simple enough for parents not to feel overwhelmed with the whole idea that, oh my God, I have to be doing all this teaching every day.
Elizabeth, this is so good. We are hearing from a school principal, okay? School principal, that you're off the hook, okay? Like you are not a teacher. I am not a teacher. You're allowed to have fun and learn new ways of connecting. Now, Elizabeth, this is so freeing. Now, when you're off, if you could please go on the chat and on the Q&A at the bottom, there's some people who've been asking some questions, and I think that I don't know the answers because I'm not a teacher, but if you could take a few moments and just answer some of their questions, because there's some really good ones on there, and I think hearing from you directly would be great. Would that work for you?
It certainly would.
Awesome. Elizabeth, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on this, taking your time, and for leading the way. We just want to honor all your work and the leadership that you're taking, and all the kids and the students and the educators that are working so hard right now. We just really value you and who you are.
Thank you.
Can everyone just
I just want to say one last thing, Connie. I want parents to know that we have your back and that you need to just be okay. Just relax, take a breath, and be okay, because we've got it going for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,